Hi there, this is Shauna from the Foiled Fox, and I'm back again to show you another way to use the Hats Off Stamp and Die set by Paper Tray Ink and Ink to Paper collection. This is the last of 3 videos showing how you can use the different ways you can use this stamp set. The other 2, if you haven't got a chance to check those out, I'll provide links down below. But this card is a little bit more formal card, and you can use any color scheme you would like. For this one, I chose blue, gold, and white. So here is the stamp set. It has lots of different stamps so that you can create lots of different designs, and it has a matching die set. And then my favorite is the notch dies that creates these wonderful panels. So starting with a dark blue card base, and then I'm going to also cut 2 panels, 2 different sizes from Nina 110-pound cardstock, and see what a nice notched corner that that die creates. And then while I'm at it, I'm going to also cut the same size panels from some foam because I want to pop them up later. But with those foam pieces set aside, I'm going to use some Fine Tech Colero gold paint, and I'm going to take these 2 acrylic sheets that I have, boards I guess you could call them, and I'm going to mount them, the panels on here, because we're going to be painting that really beautiful gold pinstripe on it. And for me, you could paint it down onto a table, but for me to have them mounted on something that's a little bit more portable but firm so that it doesn't bend the paper, I like to mount them onto like these acrylic boards, and I will link them in the supply list. So I'm using, to tape this off, I'm using some frog tape for delicate surfaces, but you can also use that post-it tape that I just showed you. Anything that would not ruin the paper when you peel it back off again. Now this when you cut this die, cut these panels, it creates a little embossed edge all the way around, and I'm just taking these 1/4-inch pieces of tape that I'm cutting using this paper trimmer. By the way, this is a really slick way to make strips for foam when you're cutting foam tape or cutting tape like this. Just use your paper trimmer and it peels right off and cuts really straight edges so that you know you have a really straight, wonderful edge to paint against. So I'm just adding these strips, and I'm going to add them all the way around both of these panels. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water to that pot of paint, and I'm going to mix it really well until it gets really, really creamy. I don't want it to look watery at all, because I know that when it's creamy, it's going to have really good saturation. Now this is a beautiful metallic paint, and it dries it's so yummy when it dries. So I love using this as my gold whenever I can. So I'm just going to take a paintbrush, a small paintbrush, and I'm going to paint along this edge. And if you've had the tape go down really firmly against those edges, then it's going to create a nice seal, and so you don't have to be afraid. You can just paint really easily, and you can get paint onto the tape strip. That's okay, because when it peels off, that's all going to go away, and it's going to leave you with a really straight edge. And so I'm going to do this for all 4 sides on each of the panels. And then I'm going to let them dry. And then I'm not going to peel off the tape until it dries, and I will do the corners later after I peel it off as well. So right now, while that's drying, I've taken the die set and I've cut out those little sprigs of leaves. There's 2 of them, one going one direction, one the other. I'm using just one size. Now I have cut them out before stamping them. I know some people like to stamp and then cut, but for these small things, I find it really easy because I do have this wonderful light pad that I can turn on, and it creates kind of this outline of the die cut, and so it makes it really easy for me to position my my stamp so that it goes on there centered. Otherwise, when I do it the other way around, it's not always so centered. By the way, I used dark indigo and blueberry sky, both paper tray inks to stamp those leaves. And now I am stamping the cap, and this I'm stamping with dark indigo. And I'm using a stamp positioner just so I can stamp it twice and get it in the right place and making sure that I have a really nice impression. And now since I'm doing in the middle of stamping, I thought I would also stamp the little tassel, which is an adorable little stamp. And then I'm going to stamp the sentiment, which is congratulations. I used anti-static powder onto the paper first, or the cardstock stock, because I am stamping it with Versamark ink, a clear ink, and then I'm going to sprinkle it with this gold embossing powder and then heat emboss it. Now it's important to use the anti-static bag because it will help those little errant pieces of embossing powder to flake off. But if you have any little extra ones, just use a brush to flick them off. And then I'm going to just heat emboss this. Okay, with that all embossed, now I'm going to take the matching dies and I'm going to cut out the tassel and I'm going to cut out the congratulations. The die cuts it out beautifully, and the cap. Now that I have all the pieces done, I'm going to set those aside, and because it's time to do the panels, I can peel off all of this tape and reveal the whole panel, and then I can paint those corners. Oh, look at that straight, gorgeous gold. I don't know if you can really see how much detail that is. Now here I just have one little spot that I guess I didn't press down enough. And so I'm using just a little X-Acto knife and it's coming right off. And so I'm good to go. And now I think I can manage to paint these corners freehand because I have the guide of that embossed edge that I know I just paint right up to the embossed edge. And since I have such a short distance to go, and you can see how I just spin that board around so it's easy. I can get to all four corners easily. With that dry, I'm going to take this small panel and I'm going to find the center, so I'm going to just make a little tick on the top and bottom. And the reason why is because I'm going to use this circle maker, but you can also use a template if you have a template with that large of a circle. But I like to use this because I just line up the dots, and then I find one of the holes that are just the size that's going to make the circle the size I want, and I just go around, and it's really slick to get that done. You can in fact find that at foilfox.com. It's on our website. Now with these going back to these little leaves, and we have the circle for a gauge, I'm just using this little micro dot adhesive because it's repositionable. You can it will become permanent over a time, but it gives you a lot of wiggle room to be able to move it around while you're trying to get the right positioning. So I really like using it for this. Makes really easy work of it. So I'm just going to go all the way around and position these around. Now when I did these sprigs, I think I mentioned that the sprigs come in, there's a left and a right. I only chose one way for cutting all of these out because I wanted to just create a really smooth wreath. And be sure to really check the left and right side, that not only is your circle symmetrical, but you have the right spacing on the left and right. And then with that done, I'm going to take these foam pieces that we cut really early on, and I'm going to trim off those little edges up to the embossed edge, because that will just be enough to trim away so that when I tape this onto the back, it won't show to the front. And I'm going to do that also to the little one. And then now that I did that, I already have the foam mounted onto the little panel, and I'm mounting that right on top of the larger panel. And then I'm ready to position the cap with a little bit of foam tape, and then I'll add on the tassel that we had cut out earlier. And with that all in position, I'm going to take some of this pearl cotton, metallic pearl cotton gold thread, and I'm going to wrap it around a few times, tape it with just a piece of Scotch tape, trim it off, and if I need to make it tighter, I know I can just pull those ends on the back side and make it a little bit tighter. And I'm going to take some liquid glue. I find this sticks really well to the pearl cotton thread there, and I'm going to just mount it right on top there. Now, prior to off camera, I had put on some of this double stick tape because I knew I didn't want to use my behemoth tape runner because I didn't want to mash down my design. So I had already put some on there, so now I could just pull off the release tape and then mount it. And there we have it, a card that I really am pleased the way it turned out. I think any grad would be really pleased to receive it. And then here is the other one that we had done previously, which there is a video and there's a link down below. That's kind of a real fun one. And then we also did this one, which was a great one too. And this one has a video as well. So you can, if you want to check this out, you can just go to the link down below. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And then you can note that there's a few I've listed a few of the products that we have used. But if you want to know more, you can go over to blog.inktopaper.com, or you can also go to foilfox.com/blog. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Bye.